Hanzo is looking to be the apex predator DPS going forward in Overwatch. Capable of getting easy pickoffs, winning every DPS 1v1, and destroying tanks and barriers, Hanzo has nearly zero weaknesses. Even an average Hanzo can output tons of impact, but a Hanzo master can single-handedly dominate a whole game. We're gonna break down this Hanzo ultimate guide so you know how to pop off and dominate in every single game as this silent archer. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? Well, Hanzo is one of the pound for pound strongest DPS in the entire game. Hanzo is an amazing dueler, great at frontlining, has amazing mobility, can scout, bust tanks, and break shields. I guess the real question would be, what can't Hanzo do? Honestly, Hanzo can do just about anything and is looking to be the most powerful DPS going forward. Let's fundamentally break down Hanzo's kit, his strengths, weaknesses, and playstyles so that you know everything you need in order to be that ultimate Hanzo. Some important aspects of Hanzo is his primary fire does 125 damage at max charge. It has no damage drop off. Also, headshots one shot, so that means Hanzo can actually win almost every 1v1 in the game, get tons of pickoffs from long range, and spam choke points for free value. Hanzo's Storm Arrow has really low spread, does 5 shots rapid fire, and each one does 70 damage. This means you could hit 3 Storm Arrow shots in the body of a 200 HP hero, or hit a headshot from Storm Arrow plus a body shot to kill a 200 HP hero as well. Now, Sonic Arrow is another insane aspect of Hanzo's kit with a 9-meter radius, allowing you to make setups, have information, and help your team out as well. Sonic Arrow is so powerful on someone like Hanzo because people can't really pursue you in your area of Sonic. If someone tries to actively pursue you in an area that you know, Hanzo can set up these headshots really easily and get free pickoffs and value. Now, when talking about Hanzo's kit, we definitely have to talk about movement. Hanzo has some of the best DPS movement in the entire game. Both horizontally and vertically, Hanzo can do everything. Hanzo has a wall climb that doesn't have a cooldown, and he has a lunge on a short cooldown, allowing him to avoid being dove, avoid danger, reposition himself, and take the high ground on a whim. This means Hanzo can be in any position he wants to be effective at any range, and it's extremely hard to punish if you have any semblance of proper positioning. This is some of the few reasons why Hanzo is gonna be the apex predator of this next ranked meta going forward. Now, lastly, when breaking down Hanzo's kit, we have to talk about his ultimate. Hanzo's ultimate DRAGONSTRIKE is very fast charging, and it's capable of getting kills and confirming team fights. Hanzo is one of the best ultimates to combo with other ultimate abilities like a Rizzlepool or Graviton Surge. It's also useful for securing solo kills, preventing an enemy's engage or disengage, or creating space on a point you're trying to recontest. Try to learn how to maximize impact for each and every Hanzo's ultimate because he gets it so often. If you can get consistent value, you'll win more consistent fights and gain more consistent SR. You know what else is a way to get consistent SR? Going to GameLeap.com. GameLeap.com is the best in-depth guides over every character, including in-depth Hanzo guides over advanced concepts and tips and tricks that will get you caught up to speed incredibly fast. Hanzo's looking to be one of the best DPS going forward, and don't get caught behind the curve where every Hanzo around you is surpassing you. Take this opportunity to become a Grandmaster Hanzo god and start popping off in each and every game you play. Now let's break down Hanzo's strengths and weaknesses. We already talked about a lot of Hanzo's strengths and the fact that he's so versatile and he can play nearly every matchup favorably. On top of that, he can mix up his playstyle again and again, so there's always a different way you can play Hanzo in every single situation. Now, Hanzo's weaknesses is something that you definitely need to know and fully grasp so you can work to overcome them. Now, what's important to understand is Hanzo has very few weaknesses. In fact, he might have the least amount of weaknesses in the entire game. That being said, you do need to learn how to take certain 1v1 close-ups like Genji, Tracer, Doom, Reaper, Mei, and faraways like Mirrors, Ashes, or Widows are all specific types of matchups that you need to learn how to take and when to take them. The close-up ones like Genji, Tracer, Doom, a lot of that has to do with practice mechanically against those matchups. Going into places like Tryhard Free-For-All can be one of the best ways to practice against these really dynamic matchups. Baiting out Genji Reflect, predicting Tracer Blink are specific examples of things that you need to learn and maximize, because while Hanzo does have some weaknesses to these type of heroes that want to get up in his face, if you can mechanically output to a certain level, these characters become not so difficult to deal with. Now, for the faraway matchups like the Mirror, Ashe, and Widow, a lot of that is just practice and generally being patient on your hero. You really need to learn when to take certain engagements. You don't want to take a Widow matchup at the farthest possible engagement because she's at an advantage. You don't want to take a Hanzo matchup when he has the high ground because he has an advantage. Trying to take matchups when you have the advantage fundamentally, whether it's informational advantage with your Sonic, health advantage, or positional advantage, is the best way to take these matchups, and then just grinding your mechanical skill can help you win them far more consistently. Now let's break down several different types of aim styles when it comes to Hanzo. Firstly is his flicking style. Flicks are for the very difficult shots and hyper close enemies. This is enacted in a lot of the same way that most hit scan players would flick, and allows you to hit these insane shots without being overly predictable with your aim. Now next up is tracking targets. This is a way to hit consistent shots on people that are flying through the air or going through predictable pattern. Also, tracking can work really well with your Storm Arrow, but a mixture of flicks and tracking are definitely things that you need to learn on Hanzo to maximize his aiming styles. Now lastly, it's about the prediction shots. These can be used in a number of ways. The first way to use a prediction shot is when someone's left-right crouch spamming right in front of you. You can wait for the perfect opportunity for them to just go right in front of your crosshair and let go of the arrow. Instead of trying to track them over and over again, you wait for the right moment to just predict exactly when they'll go in front of your crosshair. The next way to range predict is by walking with the target and trying to hit these really long range prediction shots. This is where you anticipate enemy movement and match the movement of your walking with the enemies, so it allows for much easier range shots. The next up is playstyle breakdowns. Who are you focusing? You could play with your team, helping your tanks, breaking shields, and putting pressure into the enemy team's tanks and front line. You could play the flank, trying to get picks. They're easier to hit shots on the enemy because when you flank to the left or right of an enemy, they're often trying to dodge left and right the damage coming from your front line, so it's far easier to hit these shots on them. That being said, you have to have more confidence in your mechanical skill because you're easier to punish and you're less likely to get peel from your allies. And lastly, play the high ground. This is for vantage point, information, and easy peeks. Playing the high ground is one of the strongest aspects of Hanzo, and it can feel oppressive to get shot over and over again from a Hanzo on the high ground that no one on your team can go and contest. That's one of the reasons why Hanzo is so strong, and Hanzo is definitely one of the best characters to maximize high ground advantage. Before we move on to the top 5 tips to dominate on Hanzo, you need to understand how to wiggle peek on Hanzo. Sonic Arrow wiggle peek is one of the strongest aspects of Hanzo in a duel. If you sonic where the enemy is, you can get an arrow ready and peek out, fire, and re-peek instantly. This makes it almost impossible for the enemy team to punish you because the time frame for you to get shot or take damage is so marginal, while at the same time you're still easily shooting them because you have information because of your sonic arrow. Mastering wiggle peeking on Hanzo from the high ground or around corners can be a way to get tons of value and get key puck-offs without risking yourself getting punished as well. Now let's jump into the top 5 tips on Hanzo to start dominating and get you caught up to speed on Hanzo as quickly as possible. Kicking off with tip number 1, we want to talk about punishing pursuits with storm arrows. This comes down to storm arrow setups, and I talked about it before. Essentially, the best way to get value out of these storm arrow setups is actually make the enemy feel like you're simply trying to run away. The enemy will try to pursue you if you're extremely low health and they don't think that you're trying to flip the script on them. The important thing on Hanzo is it doesn't matter how low you are, you can still win the 1v1 as long as you get an easy placed headshot. If the enemy knows you have a sonic arrow there and they don't directly peek it, use this sonic and the fear of you flipping the script on them in order to get out and get to safety. Now moving on to tip number 2, this is hitbox manipulation. Some of the big Hanzo streamers like Arger and Lars really manipulate this to its maximum effectiveness. When looking up and to the right, your arm actually covers your headshot hitbox, so it makes it really hard for a Widow to shoot you. You can get a shot at Widow, look up and to the right and block the headshot, and then get a chance to re-peek her for a follow-up shot. This is extremely powerful in that matchup and can be useful in the Hanzo 1v1 as well. Moving on to tip number 3, you don't waste your Storm Arrow or don't panic Storm Arrow. Let me explain. Every 200 HP hero dies to 2 single body shots. For the majority of Hanzo players, they'll hit 1 body shot and then proceed to pop Storm Arrow. This actually increases the time to kill while wasting a valuable resource. Even after you hit the initial body shot, you still need to hit 2 additional body shots with Storm Arrow. It's much more effective to just simply hit 2 body shots instead of wasting that Storm Arrow. A lot of this comes down to panicking, where you panic Storm Arrow in a pinch. That being said, if you waste Storm Arrow in a situation where you don't absolutely need it, you don't have it to burst down tanks or enemy shields. Keep in mind that using it in every single duel is actually a crutch, and you're not getting the maximum value that you could be getting at a Storm Arrow in the first place. Now for tip number 3.5, if you want to start to hit every single shot on Hanzo and just pop off again and again in all the games you play, you need to head on over to GameLeap.com. We have an enormously stacked Hanzo section created by Grandmaster players that give you in-depth VOD reviews and advanced tricks over everything that you need to master on Hanzo. Hanzo is looking to be the meta-defining DPS going forward, and if you don't learn these tips and tricks only found on GameLeap, you might be left behind, unable to rank up, and might even regress down to the lower ranks. You don't have to take my word for it. GameLeap.com offers a 10-day money-back guarantee, so come check us out risk-free in the links here. Now moving on to tip number 4, crosshair placement is one of the most important things to get down on Hanzo. While crosshair placement is important for every single character, Hanzo was very particular. If you have good crosshair placement placed around corners or where enemies' heads will likely be, it makes micro-flicking that much easier. Also, spam shots are more likely to get value, so crosshair placement is huge. The less you have to move your crosshair, the easier your shot will be on average, so you don't have to hit these godly flicks. Try to practice consistent crosshair placement because even with poor aim, good crosshair placement can get you tons of kills. And moving on to tip number 5, the last and final tip. Don't forget that you can Sonic Arrow the air when you get Sonic off cooldown simply by looking straight up and tapping your primary fire button with Sonic Arrow activated. The Sonic Arrow will hit the ground right when you're about to get your next Sonic off cooldown, but you can use that first information to not only set up key flanks, but get additional double Sonic Arrows. This means you can instantly Sonic Arrow after you use and evaluate the information you got from your first Sonic to set up even better flank plays, or use the first Sonic to hit the ground to start your flank play, and use your second Sonic that you got off cooldown to prevent any pursuits after a successful or failed flank play as well. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for helping you master Hanzo as quickly as possible. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, as well as any video ideas. We got the new patch things are popping off right now. Any interactions or specific things that you want to know, please let me know. I'd love to make videos about them. Anyways, I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.